Hello everybody, welcome into Box Score, our weekly look at the 5 biggest stories in sports. Thank you so much for coming along with us here tonight. We've got a lot to get into and not a lot of time to do it.
Well, we've got 4 great sports enthusiasts here with us tonight. We've got our resident Pats fan, Kelly Bright, our long-suffering Mets fan, Jimmy Sullivan, our expert on all things soccer, Tania Perez, and rocking the Viking socks, the long lover of the purple and gold, Sabrina Boyd, here for you. So we're going to break it down from everything from the NFL to the NBA. Tanya, why don't you give us a start off?
Yeah, so we're going to start off with number 5, soccer. It started off in the Mexican League, but it made its rounds all the way to L'Equipe in France. So we're going to talk about the mess that is Veracruz. They've been a mess for the last year. They haven't won anything in the last year, not a single game. It's really embarrassing. And now the players are protesting because they haven't been paid in the last 3 to 6 months. And so their plan was to not play for 3 minutes straight in protest, as I said. And they told their opponent, which was Tigres, that they weren't going to play, and they asked them to not play either in solidarity with them. But Tigres didn't pay attention, and they only stopped playing for a minute. Meanwhile, Veracruz didn't play for a solid 3 minutes, and Tigres took the opportunity to score 2 goals on them, knowing that they weren't going to move. And so now all the other teams are just bashing them because it was a really shit move, because you don't do that. And even other teams in the league stopped for a minute, and even the teams in the second division stopped and support for them. So I think that Tigres, they're supposed to be the biggest team of the decade, but they're just really small because that's not what you do. So I don't know what you guys think about that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I the first thing I thought of when I heard both teams were going to stand down at the beginning of the game was when the Donald Sterling situation happened in the NBA a few years ago, and teams were going to walk off the floor, but then they stripped him of his ownership, and none of that wound up happening. But that's a weak move. That's I will say this, though, insanely smart to say, hey, I'm standing down for 5 minutes and then just score 2 goals. That's actually, for me, I mean, it's a terrible sportsmanship move. I found it, I don't want to say funny, but I was kind of I have to respect that a little bit.
Would that be your game strategy, Jimmy?
It's very gamesmanship.
Is that what you would do?
Hey, if you can't beat them, just, score 2 goals when they're not playing.
I mean, if you really are that confident that you're going to lose, I guess that might be the only way that you're going to pull it off. But
here's the thing, though. They didn't even need to do that because Veracruz hasn't won in a solid year. So they were going to lose regardless. So you didn't really need to score the 2 goals in the beginning.
Now, Veracruz has to be careful because is it true they would be relegated if they lose all their games and they do so poorly that they had to be moved down? Because I know they're in a financial crisis already, so they do have to be careful because they don't want to lose even more money, and then the point of their strike is kind of mute at that point.
Here's the stupid part, because the league sucks, so really, they should have been relegated a year ago, but because they paid, even though they haven't paid already, but they said they were going to pay to stay, which just defeats the point of being relegated because anyone can just pay to stay. But they were supposed to be relegated a year ago, and that's why they showed up to the game, because at first they said they weren't going to come, but then the league stepped in and said, we will relegate you if you don't show up. So okay, we'll just show up then, but they didn't play in protest.
Messy situation over in Veracruz. Speaking of messy situations, let's look at the NBA. And it's just been a bad couple of weeks for them. First, the Hong Kong situation, which we're not going to get into here today. But that is our number 4 topic. Zion Williamson had surgery today to remove, not repair, remove his meniscus. He will be out at least 6 to 8 weeks to start the season. We'll go around this way, guys. What does this affect do to the Pelicans, but also to the NBA as a whole, with the number 1 pick, the superstar out of Duke, missing the first 2 months of the year?
Well, obviously not what you want. That's really the heart of their team, especially with Anthony Davis going to the Lakers. So it's not good for them. 8 weeks, really bad for the NBA because they made tomorrow's obviously the first day of the season, and the Pelicans have the primetime game playing the reigning champions with the Toronto Raptors. So not what you want for them. It's not great for the NBA because a lot of fans wanted to see him play, and now they're going to have to wait 8 weeks.
Just a quick side note, say missing meniscus 5 times fast. Can that be done, Jimmy? Give it a shot. I mean, I think
how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Even better. I mean, obviously it's not a great look for the NBA. Right now they're already struggling a lot with, as you mentioned earlier, the whole Hong Kong situation. This was supposed to be kind of this is their primetime game. Like you said, this is supposed to kind of pull them out of all this controversy, supposed to bring them back to the game of basketball and have their big star out there in front, and he's missing for 6 to 8 weeks, which they kept trying to downplay the entire offseason during the summer league, saying, oh, he's fine, he can ice it, he can walk it off.
Sprained right knee, whatever that
Exactly, whatever a sprained right knee means. Obviously, they were trying to play down the seriousness of the situation because they knew if anyone caught wind of that, it was just going to be a whole big mess. But I don't think the NBA handled that well at all.
But here's the thing, though. Does it really matter that he's hurt? Because the West Coast has a ton of competitive teams,
Sure.
like the Lakers, Clippers, Warriors.
fair.
So were the Pelicans even going to be that good of a team in the first place?
Maybe a fringe playoff team, yeah. So, maybe. It would have been tough for them. I'll say two things about this. Number one, it's important to note that he removed his meniscus because Dwayne Wade had the same surgery back at Marquette in 2002, and he was never the same after that. And he said that was the biggest regret of his career, not getting the thing repaired like Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose did. And number two, coming from a point of being a Mets fan, I saw what happened with Jed Lowry. They are never, ever okay when they're downplaying it in the offseason, okay? Jed Lowry, you know how many at-bats he had this year after his knee capsule injury?
Tell us.
9. He went 0 for 9 in 162 games. Zion's not okay. This is a concern. This is a thing, and I worry about him for the rest of his career.
I did mention you were a long-suffering Mets
Yeah, I had to get that out.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's just never really good for his overall career. It really doesn't look good for the team or the league in general when they're downplaying a player's injury like that. But we really hope the best for Zion. Hope he comes back, is able to put on a show, able to play like he played in college. All fingers kind of crossed for him. Mm-hmm. Which now brings us to our number 3 topic, a little preview of Monday Night Football. Tonight we have an East Coast battle between the Jets and the Patriots. I know that you're going to have plenty to say on this, and you're trying to start an on-air fight here. So we've got the 6-0 Patriots, one of the only 2 teams in the NFL left that are undefeated. You have the 1-4 Jets, who were finally able to pull off their first victory of the season against the Cowboys, with their quarterback returning from his long bout with mononucleosis. It was a really difficult battle. He struggled hard, but he overcame it, and he's back ready to play. Showed he's got some game, Sam Darnold, but is that going to be enough to take on this Patriots defense, Kelly?
Sam Darnold, he's back, but their defense is pretty much the same, and the Patriots have Tom Brady. And they actually played in week 2, and they absolutely annihilated them. Brady threw for 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm not nervous about the win or the loss, but I do think it's going to be close, so everyone who's got that 9.5 to 10 bet, I'm pretty sure the Jets are at least going to cover, especially with some of the key offensive receivers out for the Patriots, like Dorsett and also Gordon.
So really, all they've got right now is
Brady and Edelman.
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're definitely not looking for too many. It's not looking like too many third stringers are going to have to really step up there. Jimmy, you seem to disagree.
Oh, the Jets are going to the Super Bowl, clearly.
Absolutely.
We all know that. It's the 50-year anniversary of them doing so, and it's going to happen again. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I actually agree with Kelly. I think the Pats are going to win. It's a dangerous game. The Jets have ways of blowing it late. They blew it against Buffalo. They had a third-string quarterback, and the situation was an embarrassment to the NFL. They're not going to embarrass themselves tonight, but they are going to take the L.
Well, moving from professional football to college football, they say there's no crying in baseball, and apparently there's no dancing in college football. So on Saturday, in a Georgia Southern versus Coastal Carolina game, referees assessed both teams, every player on the team, with unsportsmanlike conduct penalties for a dance-off. In between the third and fourth quarters, every home game for Georgia Southern, they play Mo Bamba. They call it bringing the juice, but it's really just like hype-up music. Coastal Carolina was down by 3 going to the fourth quarter, decided to dance along with them to try and hype themselves up, and I guess the refs were not a fan. Maybe not of their dancing, I don't know. It didn't look that bad to me. Neither of the teams came into any physical contact. 3 players were even ejected because they had already gotten unsportsmanlike conduct penalties earlier in the game. Now, the game ended up going to triple overtime, but that was probably the most interesting part. What do you guys think about that?
I think it was really funny. I don't see why they got in trouble for it, because they're just they're college students just having fun. I get that it was a really intense game, but I didn't see anything wrong with it.
I thought the NFL was the no fun league.
Yeah, I mean, they stand for that after all. I think it's kind of ridiculous that they're allowed to have a little bit of fun. They're college students, for God's sakes. I mean, I think they finally overtook the big story of the Oklahoma Sooners little wagon tipping over with all those people on it. I mean, that was going to be pretty hard to beat, but that was pretty ridiculous on the refs' behalf.
I mean, they're both in the Sun Belt Conference. We might as well call it the No Fun Belt Conference. And we got time for one more topic, and that's obviously the ALCS baseball series just ended, and it's the process over the pinstripes. Jim, you want to talk about it a little?
2 out of 3 years the Astros have beaten the Yankees. This is an organizational thing. The Astros are just better. Kudos to them on less money for doing it. And the Astros are the favorite in the World Series. I think they win it in 5.
I would agree.
Ooh.
Anyone?
I say they win it in 6. I give the Nats a little bit of the underdog story there. I think they've had a really good run coming in. I agree that the Astros are definitely the better team, but I think they're going to make it a little bit more of a fight than people are giving them credit for.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you for tuning into this week's edition of The Box Score. Hopefully your favorite teams win, and if not, well, at least I hope they cover. We'll see you next week.